Evelyn had always been the kind of girl who spoke softly and walked gently, as if she didn't want to disturb the world around her. People in her small rural town often said she had a heart made of kindness, and a voice that sounded like a quiet morning breeze. She grew up helping her mother in the garden, spending time with her younger siblings, and reading old books on the porch swing. Crowded places made her nervous, and sudden changes frightened her. She felt safest when everything stayed calm and familiar. Her life, however, began to change when her family went through a difficult season. Work became limited, and the harvest was not good that year. At the same time, the neighboring family, the family of Cole, the quiet cowboy, was also struggling. Cole's parents had grown older, and the ranch needed more hands, more stability, and more support. Both families had known each other for many years. They had shared meals, borrowed tools, and helped each other during storms. There had always been a gentle bond between them. One evening, when the sky was colored with shades of orange and pink, Evelyn's parents called her into the living room. She felt a nervous flutter in her chest when she noticed how serious their faces looked. Her mother spoke gently, explaining that Cole's family had talked about the future. They believed that if Evelyn and Cole agreed to marry, it would bring strength to both families. It wasn't forced. It wasn't demanded. It was simply a suggestion, something that could bring stability, support, and companionship. Evelyn didn't answer right away. She went to her room and sat near the window, staring at the quiet fields outside. She thought about Cole, the man who rarely spoke, but always helped others without being asked. She remembered how he once fixed the fence near her home without waiting for thanks. She remembered seeing him at the weekly market, standing alone, buying supplies with a calm, steady expression. He wasn't loud. He wasn't demanding. He lived a simple life on the ranch, caring for the land, the animals, and his aging parents. He always seemed lonely, not because he pushed people away, but because he didn't know how to draw them closer. Evelyn wondered if their lives could fit together like two pieces of a puzzle. She wondered if her quiet nature and his silent strength could form something stable. After many nights of thinking and praying, she finally told her parents she would agree if Cole also wished for the same. When Cole heard the suggestion, he was surprised. Marriage had never crossed his mind. He had accepted his life as a solitary cowboy, looking after the ranch and expecting nothing more. But the idea of having someone who might bring warmth into the old wooden house, someone who could share meals, someone who understood quietness, something inside him softened. Cole said yes. The days leading up to the wedding moved quickly. Families worked together to make everything simple and beautiful. Evelyn tried to stay calm, but her heart kept beating faster each time she thought about standing beside Cole. She liked him, even admired him, but they barely knew each other. She worried about disappointing him. She worried about stepping into a life completely different from her own. She worried that maybe she wasn't ready for such a big change. Cole had worries too. He wasn't used to sharing his life with anyone. He wondered if he would make mistakes, if he would be too quiet, too slow to understand what Evelyn needed. He wanted to be a good husband, but he had no idea how to start. Even so, he believed that he could learn, just as he had learned everything else on the ranch, through patience and steady effort. The wedding day arrived with clear skies and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of fresh hay. It was a small gathering. Just close family and a few friends. Evelyn wore a simple white dress that her mother had stitched by hand. Her hair was tied back loosely, and a soft blush colored her cheeks. She looked beautiful. But more than that, she looked fragile, like a flower opening for the first time. Cole stood near the old oak tree where the ceremony would take place. He wore a clean shirt, brushed boots, and the same hat he always wore. His hands were steady, but his heart felt heavy with nervousness. When he saw Evelyn walking toward him, his breath caught for a moment. Not because she looked perfect, but because she looked brave. He understood immediately how much courage it must have taken for her to step into this new life. Their families watched with warm smiles as the ceremony began. The vows were simple, spoken slowly and softly. Evelyn's voice trembled, but she didn't falter. Cole spoke fewer words, but every word was sincere. When they exchanged rings, their fingers touched for the first time. and a small spark of warmth passed between them like a silent promise that neither of them fully understood yet. After the ceremony, there was a quiet celebration with food, laughter, and gentle music. People congratulated them, giving blessings and kind wishes. Evelyn smiled politely, but inside, her heart was still shaking. She kept glancing at Cole, unsure how to start a conversation with her new husband. Cole also felt awkward, unsure how close he should stand, unsure what to say that wouldn't make her more nervous. When the evening ended and the sun slowly faded behind the hills, Cole helped Evelyn into the wagon that would take them to the ranch house where they would begin their new life. The ride was quiet. Evelyn held her hands together, staring at the horses pulling them forward. Cole kept his eyes on the road, speaking only when necessary. Neither of them knew how to break the silence. But strangely, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt like the beginning of something delicate. When they reached the small wooden cabin near the ranch, Evelyn stepped down carefully. It wasn't a large home, but it was warm and sturdy. Cole had cleaned it earlier, placing fresh flowers on the table and making sure everything looked welcoming. He hoped she would like it. Evelyn noticed the small efforts, and a tiny relief warmed her heart. As they entered the house, Evelyn felt reality settle around her like a soft blanket. She was married now, standing inside a new home, beside a man she barely knew. Her legs felt weak, but she forced herself to stay calm. Cole noticed her hesitation and gently told her she could rest, explore the house, or take her time settling in. There was no rush. His voice was steady, giving her a sense of safety she didn't expect. The night grew quiet, and the world outside seemed to pause. Both of them knew this was just the beginning of a long journey, one filled with uncertainty but also possibilities. Evelyn stood in the doorway of the bedroom, her heart fluttering with nerves, wondering how life would change from this moment onward. Cole stayed a few steps back, giving her space because he understood her shyness. Neither of them spoke much, but deep inside, they both hoped that this new bond, formed from two quiet souls, would slowly grow into something warm, steady, and meaningful. The first night in their new home arrived with a soft, peaceful stillness. Outside, the sky was filled with stars that looked like tiny lanterns hanging in endless darkness. The distant sound of crickets filled the air, blending gently with the quiet wind brushing against the wooden walls of the cabin. For most people, it might have been a comforting night. But for Evelyn, everything felt new and overwhelming. She stood near the small wooden table, unsure where to place her hands, unsure how to breathe normally. Her heart was still beating faster than she wanted. Cole noticed her discomfort immediately. Even though he was not a man of many words, he had always been good at sensing quiet emotions. He could read a horse's fear, a cow's restlessness, even the worry in his father's eyes. So when he looked at Evelyn, standing stiffly and nervously, he understood that she needed space. Space to adjust. Space to settle. Space to just be herself for a moment. He walked toward the window and opened it slightly, letting in the cool night air. Then he pulled a chair toward the same window and sat down quietly. His movements were slow, calm, and respectful, as if he was trying not to create any pressure on her. He didn't want to frighten her. He didn't want to make her feel rushed. He just wanted her to feel safe in this new place. Evelyn watched him from the corner of her eye. She appreciated how he didn't force conversation or expect too much from her. His silence was comforting, not heavy. Still, she felt unsure. This was their wedding night, a moment she had imagined with fear and confusion ever since she agreed to marry him. She had worried about saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, or simply not being enough for a man like Cole. But now that the moment had come, she realized that Cole wasn't expecting anything big from her. He was simply giving her time. The small cabin looked warm in the soft light of the oil lamp sitting on the table. Its golden glow touched the wooden walls and made the room feel like a safe little world of its own. Evelyn slowly walked around, touching the back of a chair, straightening a cloth on the shelf, looking at the little details of the house. Every tiny thing was new to her: new smells, new shadows, new spaces. She felt like a guest in her own life. Cole remained quiet, His eyes focused on the stars outside. He wanted to say something to make her feel better, but words felt heavy on his tongue. He had never been good at expressing emotions. He could talk about cattle, land, and weather easily. But speaking about feelings was something foreign to him, so he stayed silent, hoping his calm presence was enough. Minutes passed. The silence between them grew, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was like a gentle pause in a long story, giving both of them time to breathe. Evelyn finally took a deep breath and turned toward Cole. She hesitated for a moment, then walked slowly to stand a few steps behind him. She didn't sit, and she didn't speak right away. She was trying to gather courage to say what had been building inside her chest since morning. "Cole," she whispered softly. Cole turned his head slightly, careful not to move too quickly. "Yes?" he asked in his calm, steady voice. Evelyn opened her mouth, but the words didn't come easily. Her throat felt tight, and her hands trembled a little. She felt foolish for being so nervous, but she couldn't help it. She wasn't used to sharing her feelings with anyone, not even with her own family sometimes. But she knew she had to speak. If she didn't, the fear would grow bigger inside her. I'm sorry if I seem strange," she whispered, her eyes lowering as she spoke. "Everything feels so new. I don't know how to act. I don't know what you expect. I'm just scared." Cole listened quietly, turning fully to face her now. The gentle honesty in her voice touched him more deeply than he expected. He could see that every word she spoke took effort, and that made him respect her even more. "You don't have to be sorry," he said softly. "There's nothing wrong with how you feel." Evelyn swallowed hard, still staring at the floor. "I'm afraid that I won't fit into this life. I don't know much about ranch work. I don't know what kind of person you need me to be." Cole stood up slowly and walked closer, but he kept a respectful distance. He didn't want her to feel trapped. "I don't need you to be anything other than yourself," he said gently. "I'm learning too. I've lived alone for a long time. I don't really know how to be a good husband yet." Evelyn looked up in surprise. She hadn't expected him to admit something like that. His honesty made her feel less alone. For the first time that night, she felt a small piece of her worry loosen inside her chest. Cole continued, "I don't want you to be scared here. You can take your time. We'll figure things out together." Evelyn nodded slowly, grateful for his words. But her fears weren't finished yet. She hesitated again, her voice trembling as she whispered, "I'm also scared of disappointing you. I'm not strong like you. I'm not confident. I'm just me." Cole felt something warm spread in his heart. He had never imagined that someone would worry about disappointing him. He shook his head gently. "You don't need to be strong like me. We're different people, and that's okay." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The night outside grew colder, but the room felt warmer now. The distance between their hearts had quietly become smaller. Evelyn took a deep breath and sat on the chair near the door. She felt tired, not from the day's events, but from carrying her fears for so long. Cole sat back down near the window, but now he felt lighter. He had never shared his fears with anyone, yet somehow, speaking a few simple truths to Evelyn felt right. The oil lamp flickered softly, casting gentle shadows on the walls. Evelyn watched the tiny flame dance, and she felt inspired by its quiet strength. If a small flame could light up a dark room, maybe her quiet heart could bring light to this new home too. After several minutes of peaceful silence, Cole spoke again. "If there's anything you need," he said, his voice low and warm, "just tell me. I'll listen." Evelyn looked at him, her eyes softening. For the first time, she truly believed him. She realized that Cole was not expecting perfection or quick adjustment. He wasn't expecting her to suddenly become confident or fearless. He was simply offering support steady, patient, and honest. That simple understanding brought her more comfort than any long speech could have. The night continued quietly after that. Evelyn felt her shoulders relax. She looked around the small cabin again, this time not with fear but with curiosity. Maybe this place could become home. Maybe this life, with all its unknowns, could become something gentle and meaningful. Cole watched her with a small, shy smile. A smile he rarely showed. Seeing her a little more at ease made him feel hopeful. Their journey had just begun. But already, something had shifted between them. They didn't speak much more that night. They didn't need to. The silence that once felt uncertain now felt peaceful. It was the kind of silence shared by two people who were slowly learning to trust each other. And in that quiet cabin, under the watch of the soft lamplight and the endless stars outside, the first seeds of understanding took root. Small, fragile, but full of promise. The cabin was quiet, except for the soft sound of the wind brushing past the wooden walls. Evelyn sat on the chair near the small table, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She had spoken a little earlier, but many thoughts were still trapped inside her heart like birds afraid to fly. She knew she needed to let them out slowly, gently, one at a time, but speaking her fears aloud felt like opening a door she had kept locked for too long. Cole sat near the window again, but now he glanced toward her every few moments, making sure she wasn't overwhelmed. He didn't rush her or ask any questions. He simply waited, letting her take her time. His patience made it easier for her to breathe, easier to gather courage. Minutes passed. The lamp flickered softly, and the warm light settled on her face. She took a long breath and stood up slowly, her steps small and careful. As she moved closer to Cole, he looked up at her gently, sensing that she wanted to speak again. Evelyn's voice was quiet when she finally whispered, "There's more I want to say, but I don't know if it's the right time." Cole didn't move too quickly. He didn't lean forward or make her feel pressured. He simply nodded. "You can speak whenever you're ready," he said softly. "I'm here." The words gave her strength. She sat down on the chair closest to him. Not too close, but closer than before. She looked at her hands for a long moment before she whispered again, her voice trembling. "I have fears that I've never told anyone. Not even my mother." Cole listened, keeping his eyes gentle and steady. Evelyn continued, her voice breaking slightly. "I'm scared I won't know how to be a good partner. I'm scared I'll make mistakes or cause problems. I've lived such a quiet life. I'm not used to big responsibilities, and I keep thinking, what if I'm not enough for you?" Cole's eyes softened even more. He had never heard anyone speak with such fragile honesty. It touched something deep inside him, something he had kept hidden for years. Evelyn took another breath, her words spilling out in a soft rush. "And I'm scared of ranch life too. I don't know how to take care of animals. I don't know the right tools or routines. I grew up helping my mother at home, not in the fields. What if I slow you down? What if I make mistakes every day? What if—" Cole lifted a hand lightly, not to silence her, but to reassure her. "Evelyn," he said softly, "no one learns everything in one day. Not even me." His voice was calm, steady like the land he worked on every day. She blinked, surprised by how simply he said it. Cole continued, still gentle. "When I first started taking care of the ranch alone, I didn't know half of what I needed to know. I made mistakes too. Many times." Evelyn looked at him with wide eyes. She had always imagined Cole as someone who handled everything perfectly, someone strong and confident. Hearing that he had struggled too made her fears feel less heavy. He leaned back slightly, keeping a comfortable distance so she didn't feel crowded. "And about being enough." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You already are. You don't have to change yourself or pretend to be someone else. I don't expect anything big from you. I just want honesty, and you've given me more honesty tonight than I've heard in years." A small, shaky breath escaped Evelyn's lips. She felt a strange mix of relief and emotion. No one had ever told her she was enough just as she was. Not in such a sincere, quiet way. But her fears weren't all spoken yet. She lowered her eyes again and whispered, "There's one more thing." Cole straightened a little, giving her his full attention. "Go ahead," he encouraged softly. Evelyn hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper when she spoke again. "I'm scared of disappointing your family." They've lived on this land for generations. They know everything. They're strong, hardworking, and confident. I'm not like that. I'm shy and slow to adjust. What if they think I'm not right for this life? Cole shook his head gently. My parents chose you because they believed in you. They've watched you grow for years. Evelyn, they know your heart, and they know your kindness. That's worth more than knowing ranch work on the first day. Evelyn felt warmth spread in her chest. She had never imagined that her quiet nature could be seen as something valuable. Still, she whispered, but what if I can't keep up? Then, I'll be there to help you. Cole said simply. We'll learn together. You don't have to face everything alone. His calm certainty comforted her more than anything else. His words didn't feel like promises made in a hurry. They felt like truth, steady and reliable. Evelyn wiped a small tear from the corner of her eye, embarrassed to show so much emotion. But Cole didn't look uncomfortable. Instead, he looked grateful. Grateful that she trusted him enough to speak openly. She gathered strength again and said softly, I've kept these fears inside for so long. It feels strange to finally say them. Cole nodded. Sometimes keeping fears inside makes them heavier, he said. Speaking them out loud can make them lighter. Evelyn looked at him, her eyes full of quiet wonder. Do you have fears too? Cole hesitated for the first time that night. His eyes dropped to his hands, and Evelyn realized that it wasn't easy for him to speak about himself either. After a long moment, he whispered, Yes, I do. Evelyn waited patiently, giving him the same respect he had shown her. Cole took a slow breath. I'm scared I won't know how to take care of you properly. I've lived alone for so many years. I'm used to silence, used to doing everything by myself. Sometimes I worry that I won't understand what you need, or that I'll fail at being a good partner. Evelyn felt her heart tighten not with fear but with unexpected tenderness. Cole's honesty made him seem more human, more real than before. He continued quietly. I'm also scared that my life is too lonely, too quiet. I don't want you to feel alone here. I don't want the silence to feel heavy for you the way it sometimes feels for me. Evelyn listened, surprised that Cole, who always seemed so strong and steady, held such deep worries. She whispered softly, I don't think your life is too quiet. Cole looked up, meeting her eyes for the first time in several minutes. Evelyn continued, I like quiet things. I like peaceful places. And I think, maybe your quiet life is something I can grow into. Something I can learn to love. Cole felt something shift inside him, something warm and hopeful. The room grew quiet again, but this time the silence felt gentle, full of understanding. Two people who had barely known each other had shared their deepest fears in a single night, and somehow, instead of pulling them apart, it brought them closer. Evelyn finally felt her heart lighten. She stood up slowly, looking around the room again. It no longer felt unfamiliar. It felt softer, safer because she wasn't facing it alone. Cole stood as well, not moving too close, but close enough to show his support. Thank you for telling me, he said quietly. Evelyn nodded, her voice soft but steady. Thank you for listening. The lamp flickered as the flame settled, sending a warm glow across the room. Outside, the wind slowed, as if the night itself was calming down with them. In that peaceful moment, their journey truly began, not from perfection or certainty, but from honesty and gentle trust. Morning arrived slowly at the ranch, bringing soft golden light that spread across the fields. A rooster crowed somewhere in the distance, and the cows began moving around in their pens. The world outside the cabin was already awake, but inside, everything was peaceful and quiet. Evelyn opened her eyes slowly, feeling the gentle warmth of sunlight touching the wooden floor. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered this was her new home, her new life. The memories of the previous night came back to her. The whispered fears, the soft conversation, the gentle understanding between her and Cole. She wasn't sure what the future would look like, but she felt lighter than she had in many days. She stretched her fingers softly and stood up, smoothing her dress quietly. She heard faint footsteps outside, steady and familiar. Cole was already awake and working. Evelyn stepped toward the window and looked outside. She saw Cole moving through the yard with calm, practiced steps. He carried a bucket of feed in one hand and held the gate open with the other. The animals seemed to know him well, gathering around him with trust. He worked with a rhythm she admired, quiet, patient, and strong. She watched him for a moment, feeling a small spark of courage inside her. She wanted to help him, even if she didn't know what to do yet. She took a deep breath, tied her hair back, and stepped outside into the fresh morning air. Cole looked up when he heard the door open. His eyes softened when he saw her. "Good morning," he said gently. "Good morning," Evelyn replied, her voice shy but warm. "You don't have to come out so early," Cole said kindly. "You can rest a little more." I want to help," she said quietly. "I want to learn." Cole smiled a small, almost invisible smile. But it was real. "All right," he said. "Just follow me. We'll start slowly." He handed her a smaller bucket, not too heavy, and showed her how to scatter the feed for the chickens. At first, Evelyn felt unsure. Her steps were awkward, and she worried she might do something wrong. But the chickens didn't seem to mind her at all. They waddled toward her, clucking softly, pecking at the feed she dropped. Evelyn giggled quietly, a soft sound, but full of surprise. She had never been this close to so many animals before. Cole noticed her smile, and it made him feel unexpectedly happy. "You're doing fine," he said gently. She looked at him, her cheeks turning slightly pink. "Thank you." After the chickens, Cole showed her how to help gather fresh eggs from the coop. Evelyn held them carefully, amazed at how warm they felt in her hands. Every small task was new to her, and although she made tiny mistakes here and there, Cole never got frustrated. He guided her with patience, explaining things slowly and calmly. Hours passed, but Evelyn didn't feel tired. Instead, she felt proud. She had stepped into a new world, and even though it was different from anything she had known before, she felt a growing sense of belonging. When they returned to the cabin, Evelyn prepared breakfast for both of them. She cooked simple food, fresh eggs, warm bread, and tea. Cole sat at the table, watching her move around the kitchen shyly. It was the first meal they shared in their home, and even though it was quiet, it felt meaningful. They ate side by side, not saying much. But the silence felt warm rather than awkward. Evelyn felt her nervousness fading little by little. The cabin no longer seemed like a strange place. It felt like the beginning of something gentle. Over the next days, Evelyn settled into a small routine. She woke early, helped Cole with light tasks on the ranch, cleaned the cabin, and cooked meals. Cole, seeing her efforts, slowly adjusted his routine too. He showed her tasks that matched her pace: watering plants, brushing the horses, organizing tools, and helping him carry small items when they fixed fences. He made sure she never felt pressured or overwhelmed. If she didn't understand something, he simply showed her again. If she looked tired, he gently suggested they rest. His kindness made her braver each day. One afternoon, Cole took her to the barn to meet his favorite horse, a calm brown mare named Willow. The horse snorted softly when she saw Evelyn, and Evelyn stepped back in surprise. "She won't hurt you," Cole said gently. "She's gentle. Just hold your hand out slowly." Evelyn hesitated, then did what he said. Willow sniffed her hand and nuzzled it softly. Evelyn's face brightened with a shy smile. "She likes you," Cole said. "I like her too," Evelyn whispered. Moments like this became a part of their daily life, simple, quiet, but full of growing trust. In the evenings, after the work was done and the sun began to set, they often sat on the porch together. Sometimes they talked about small things, weather, animals, memories from childhood. Other times, they simply watched the sky change colors. The silence between them grew comfortable, like a soft blanket they both wrapped around themselves. One evening, Evelyn brought out 2 cups of warm tea. She handed one to Cole and sat beside him. The sun was sinking behind the hills, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It is," Cole agreed. Evelyn looked at him quietly. His face looked different in the warm light, calmer, softer. She realized that she had grown less scared of him. She had begun noticing things she hadn't seen before: how patient he was, how gentle his eyes looked when he listened to her, how he always made space for her to breathe. Cole glanced at her too, noticing her relaxed shoulders, the peaceful look on her face. He remembered how nervous she had been on their wedding night, how her voice had trembled when she whispered her fears. Seeing her more comfortable now filled him with a quiet sense of pride and relief. In the days that followed, Evelyn started discovering her own strengths. She learned how to organize the cabin in ways that made life easier. She learned the animals' behaviors and the small routines that kept the ranch running smoothly. She even learned how to guide Willow around the barnyard with gentle steps. Whenever she managed something new, Cole noticed. He might not say it loudly, but he always said something softly like, "Good job," or "You're doing well," or "That was brave of you." His simple words meant more to her than long compliments from anyone else. One afternoon, while carrying baskets into the kitchen, Evelyn paused and looked around the cabin. For the first time, she truly felt that it was her home. She felt a small warmth inside her chest, a feeling she hadn't expected so soon. She whispered to herself, "Maybe I can do this. Maybe this life can be mine." Meanwhile, Cole also felt something changing. He no longer felt the emptiness that had followed him for years. When he saw Evelyn working beside him, or talking softly to the animals, or laughing a little when something surprised her, he felt a peace he had never known before. She didn't fill the ranch with noise or excitement. Instead, she brought a gentle warmth, a warmth that made everything feel softer, lighter, more alive. One evening, after dinner, Evelyn washed the dishes while Cole dried them. They moved around each other carefully, quietly helping, not stepping on each other's space. When Evelyn accidentally dropped a spoon, she looked up quickly in fear of making him upset. But Cole only smiled softly and said, "It's all right." Evelyn let out a breath she didn't know she had been holding. That tiny moment showed her something important. She didn't have to be perfect here. She just had to be herself. Every day, their bond grew stronger through small actions, shared chores, quiet meals, short conversations, and simple honesty. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic moments, just two people learning to live side by side, slowly building trust. By the end of the month, Evelyn no longer felt like a guest in her own home. She felt like a partner, one who was learning, growing, and becoming braver with each passing day. And Cole no longer felt like a lonely cowboy. He felt like a man who finally had someone to share his world with. Their journey wasn't finished, but their hearts had begun to walk together step by gentle step. That night felt different for both of them. After everything they had shared in the past few days, honest words, quiet fears, new courage, and small moments of trust, they were no longer the strangers who had stood awkwardly together at the altar. They had learned pieces of each other that no one else had ever touched. And now, as the sun faded behind the wide hills and the sky turned the soft colors of evening, they felt something gentle and peaceful settle inside them. Clara stood on the porch of the farmhouse, looking out toward the open land. The breeze played with her hair, and the horizon stretched endlessly in front of her. She could hear the horses in the barn, the soft rustling of leaves, and somewhere behind her, the footsteps of the man she was slowly learning to understand. Ethan walked toward her, quiet as always, but this time she could feel a little warmth in his silence, as if he was learning how to share the peaceful things he kept inside. He stopped beside her, but did not speak at first. He simply rested his hand lightly on the railing, close enough to her hand that she could feel the comfort of his presence. She had once feared being close to him, fearing that closeness meant losing herself. Now closeness felt like a space she was finally allowed to breathe in. A few moments passed before Ethan finally spoke. His voice was soft, careful, the way he always spoke when something mattered to him. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. Clara looked at him, surprised. "Proud of me? Why?" He shrugged lightly, eyes on the land instead of her. "For being honest. For not hiding who you are. for trying, even when it's hard. He glanced at her then, offering a small smile. It takes strength to do that. His words filled her with a quiet warmth. She had spent so long trying to be what other people wanted, hiding her fears so no one would think she was weak, but Ethan never mocked her worries, never rushed her, never acted like she was a burden. Instead, he noticed the small things she did. And somehow, those things mattered to him. She turned back to the view, letting the moment settle between them. "I'm proud of you too," she said softly. Ethan blinked, almost startled. "Me? Yes. Because you've lived so much of your life alone. And still, you let someone new into your world." She smiled gently. "That takes courage too." He didn't speak for a moment, but she saw something shift in his expression, something fragile yet hopeful. After a while, Clara walked down the porch steps slowly. "Come with me," she said, her voice light but steady. "Where?" he asked. She pointed toward the small hill behind the house. "Just a little walk. I want to see something." Ethan followed her, keeping pace at her side. The grass brushed against their boots, and the sky above them turned deeper shades of blue as more stars appeared. The hill wasn't far, but when they reached the top, the view opened into a beautiful blanket of land, fields stretching wide with soft shadows from the moon. Clara took a slow breath. "This place scared me when I first came," she admitted. "Everything felt too big, too quiet, too unknown. But now, I think I needed this." Ethan stood quietly beside her, listening in the way he always listened, with attention, not impatience. "I needed a place where I could learn myself again," she continued. "Where I could grow, not hide." He nodded gently. "Maybe I needed that too." They stood in silence for a moment, sharing the view and the soft wind. It was peaceful, like the land itself was giving them permission to start new. Clara turned to him, her voice low but certain. "I was afraid of you," she said honestly. "Not because you did anything wrong, but because I was afraid of failing, afraid of disappointing someone again. I didn't know how to be someone's partner." Ethan looked at her, not hurt, but understanding. "And now?" he asked quietly. She held his gaze for a long moment. "Now, I'm not afraid of you. Not anymore. I'm learning to trust you, and I want to keep learning." Her words felt like a promise, not rushed, not heavy, just real. Ethan's expression softened in a way she had not seen before. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But she didn't. His fingers brushed against hers, warm and steady. When she intertwined her hand with his, it felt natural, like something that had been waiting to happen. They stood hand in hand at the top of the hill as the moonlight embraced the land, creating a quiet moment that neither of them would forget. After a while, Ethan guided her gently back down the hill. "There's something I want to show you too," he said, as they reached the barn. He opened the barn door, revealing a small wooden box on a workbench. Clara stepped closer as Ethan lifted the lid. Inside the box were simple, hand-carved wooden pieces, small animals, shapes, and tiny figures. Each one was made with patience and care. "I made these when I was younger," Ethan explained, brushing a finger across one of the wooden shapes. "When life felt too heavy, carving helped me think. I stopped for a long time. But recently, I started again. I didn't know why at first. Now I think I do." Clara picked up one of the carvings, a small bird with wings gently spread. "These are beautiful," she said softly. Ethan watched her carefully. "I carved something for you." She blinked in surprise. "For me?" He nodded and reached into the box. When he placed the carving in her hands, her breath caught for a moment. It was a small wooden figure of a girl standing with her hands folded gently, looking up with hope. The details were soft, simple, but full of heart. "It's how I saw you the first night," Ethan said quietly. "Gentle, unsure, but stronger than you knew." Clara traced the tiny lines with her thumb, her eyes warming. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Thank you." She held the carving close, touched in a way she couldn't fully express. No one had ever seen her like that before, not even herself. When they left the barn, the farmhouse glowed softly with the warm light from the windows. It looked like home, not a place she had been forced into, but a place she was slowly choosing. As they entered the house, Clara turned to him again. "Ethan, I want to make this work. Not because people expect it, not because we're married, but because I believe we can build something real, something gentle, something honest." Ethan nodded, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I want that too." Their words settled between them like a promise sealed quietly in the air. Later that evening, they sat on the old couch in the living room. Ethan handed her a warm cup of tea, the same way he had on their first night. But now there was no tension, no fear, only a comfortable stillness. Clara leaned lightly against him, allowing herself to rest without worry. Ethan didn't move right away. He simply let her settle, then rested his arm gently around her shoulders. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't forced. It felt like something they had grown into, slowly, naturally, together. For the first time since their wedding day, Clara felt calm, not because everything was perfect, but because they were finally walking in the same direction. They talked late into the night about small things, dreams, the future, and each word they shared strengthened the bridge between them. Before going to sleep, Clara whispered something she had never imagined she would say so soon. "I'm glad I married you." Ethan's eyes softened. He brushed a gentle hand along her arm. "I'm glad you're here." The night settled around them quietly. Not as two strangers in a new marriage, but as two hearts learning to build a life together. Slow, patient, and true. The shy bride and the lonely cowboy were no longer standing on opposite sides of their fears. They were stepping forward, side by side, ready to create their own story. One filled with trust, understanding, and the gentle kind of love that grows from honest beginnings. And this time, neither of them felt alone.